Are you guys ready? Wednesday, May 15th, 2024, Planning and Zoning Board meeting for the City of Fort Lauderdale. If you'll join me in the Pledge of Allegiance, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you for that. All right. First thing we're going to do is determine that we have a quorum. Minimum is 5, and we have 5. We're going to get started. We're going to have a few more coming in. Traffic's unfortunately pretty bad, but in the interest of everybody that's here, we're going to get this going quickly. So to my left, I have Patrick McTeague and Marilyn Mamano, and to my right, I've got Jay Scheckman and Steve Gannon, and my name is Mike Weymouth. So we have a quorum of 5. With that quorum, would somebody like to approve the minutes from the April meeting?
So moved.
Second. By Patrick, second by Jay. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you.
Can you please turn your speaker off?
I can't, no.
Hello.
There's a seat up front. If it's just one person, there's a seat up front, and I can hear it all around here. So you may want to come forward. You're more than welcome to. I don't have any control over the audio video, and I certainly don't want to yell at you. So please feel free to move forward if you'd like to a place where you can hear better. All right. So anybody that is going to speak on any item tonight, please stand up and be sworn in.
Please raise your right hand. Do you swear or affirm any testimony you give at this public hearing will be truthful and accurate? Yes? Thanks.
Okay. All right. Before we start, is it the board's pleasure to make the findings of the city's recommendations part of each agenda item? Yes. Second?
Yes. Second.
Second by Patrick. Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any approved? Any opposed? Great. Okay. First case, PLR 19062. Marilyn, let's start down with you. Any disclosures?
Conversations with the Civic Association president.
Patrick McTeague, I had a conversation with the counsel for the applicant.
Steve?
Conversation with applicant's counsel and a site visit.
Letters from the association president, conversation with council, and this previously came to the Planning and Zoning Board. This a separate project with the same applicant.
This is Steve Gannon. I need to disclose also, I also received letter communications from various entities out there.
And I received an email from the city that disclosed a letter from Mr. Inserna, who I guess is the association president. So with that being said, let's go ahead and Ms. Toothaker, good evening.
Good evening, Chair, members of the Planning and Zoning Board. Thank you for allowing us to be here this evening. Gonna work on that. Testing.
Stephanie, if you do, before you start, please recognize that Shari McCartney's joined the board. And also, I was remiss in introducing the city people that are here. Ella, you guys keep giving me these. We have Ella Parker, who's the Planning and Zoning Board liaison, Sherry Wallen, and Dwayne Spence from the legal department, Michael Ferreira, Nancy Garcia, Yvonne Redding, Jim Hetzel. Thank you for being here. Sorry.
Thank you very much. So this is a project. Well, first of all, let me just mention that that my client, Hunter Holmes, and our development team, everybody is here in the audience, and we're all happy to answer any questions should you have them. As you know, this is a project that came before the Planning and Zoning Board previously. I was at the time not involved with the project, but it was quite clear from that meeting. I was here for a different item, and it was quite clear from that meeting that that conversations with the neighborhood needed to be had, and so I was very happy to have the opportunity to work with Hunter, and also I really want to compliment the neighborhood association. We worked very closely with the neighborhood association, and I'm very and the president Ted and Sarah and the vice president, other members of the association who've just been absolutely wonderful to work with. And I want to thank them for the opportunity to allow us to present to the neighborhood and to make what we think are pretty significant changes and commitments to the neighborhood. So I'd like to take you through those. I make this mistake every time. The arrow. Okay, here we go. Thank you. So I know most of you did a site visit, if not all of you. I know you're all very familiar with the proposed location. We're showing it here on the screen, outlined in red. It's an empty site right now. The property has a underlying land use of medium-high residential, and you can see from the screen the land use on the right-hand side. There are properties on two sides of it that already are multifamily projects, and of course on the zoning screen it's zoned RD15, and the development is consistent with the RD15 zoning code, and I'm going to take you through that. So the minimum lot size is 3,000 square feet per unit. This exceeds that. It's zoned 19 units to the acre. This is complies with that at 17 units. The maximum building height is consistent with single-family homes. This is significantly shorter. The structure length, it complies. The lot width, it complies. Square feet complies, and the parking, it exceeds the parking requirement in the code. It also meets or exceeds all of the setbacks on each side. You can see it's 15 feet at the north, and it exceeds the setbacks on the east, west, and south. So I'm not going to read through all of this, but we spent a lot of time going through the ULDR sections and the compatibility, and it meets, and I'd like to just submit this for the record, as we always do with the presentation, but it meets all of the requirements of compatibility in the ULDR. The water and wastewater capacity, ample water and wastewater. This is a small project. It's only 17 units. Traffic and trip generation, that was one of the things that came out of the neighborhood meeting. The project's so small, we hadn't originally done a traffic analysis, but the neighborhood asked us to, so we did. And it is a very small traffic generation. It's 28 a.m. and 28 p.m. trips, which is very, very small in the scheme of projects. School concurrency, again, it's proposed to create a total of 5 students. Chair, I'm going to stop because you have a board member joining.
Thank you. Thank you. Please recognize Brad Cohn joined the meeting about 5 minutes ago, and Mary Fertig, who is enjoying, I think, going to enjoy her last meeting. We'll give you a little recognition at the end of the night, unless you want it now. Do you want to glow through the whole meeting? Okay. I didn't want to interrupt it, but.
Thank you. Civil and drainage compliance. This was a big one, and you'll see this later in our letter commitment to the neighbors. But this is a neighborhood that has suffered with drainage problems, and while we did have preliminary approval of the drainage plan that was proposed for the project. One of the things that came out of that neighborhood meeting was, I think, a real necessity for some additional drainage above what's required, but just to make sure that there are no drainage issues. And so the developer committed, it was a request from the neighborhood association, and the developer committed to adding an additional drainage well. There were already 2 that were included, and even though it's not required by code, we did add a 3rd drainage well to ensure that there's never a drainage issue on the site. So I was very pleased that we were able to do that. I did that again, I'm sorry. Arrows. Fire code compliance. This came up as a question, and I wanted to just spend a minute on it. Of course, there's a fire hydrant internal, and there's also adequate space for a fire truck to come in. And because these are considered single-family homes, they don't get sprinkled the way you would a multifamily project. These are pursuant to the code. They consider these to be single-family homes, 17 single-family homes. This is just the River Oaks Civic Association, just the date that we were there, which was March 21st. We listened, we had some ongoing discussions with the neighbors. Again, it was such a pleasure dealing with this neighborhood association and speaking to them about what their issues were. And I feel like we've really, really made an effort to address those, and I'm going to talk about that in the next slide. So this is a voluntary letter commitment that we did that I would like to make a part of the record, and I think these are really important points. So I am going to read this if that's okay. One was because the AC units are on the roof, and code requires this anyway, but I think it's an important discussion to have with neighbors so they understand that the rooftop screening for all mechanical equipment will not only meet code, but we shared images of what that's going to look like, and so that's very well done. This is another issue. The neighbor to this project was very concerned about her privacy. She's got a beautiful old home and a lot of trees, and she wanted a privacy fence and was very specific about what kind of fence that was going to be. So we worked with her on what that fence was going to look like, and so we're committing to doing the privacy fence against the neighbor's property, and we added fencing around the entire project, but this one, she wanted a specific kind of fence, so we committed to that. It's an opaque privacy fence. This was another one, the garages. There will be restrictions on the way the garages can be used. They cannot be used for storage. The garages can only be used to park cars. I think that's a very important. We've done that in other projects, and that is enforceable because there are common areas throughout the project, and so the association will enforce that and ensure that there's no parking of the cars external to the garages. Additional drainage well, I already talked about that, so there'll be a total of 3 drainage wells, We also added some additional trees. 1 additional mature oak tree, a 24-inch Boston ferns, 7 Thrynax radiata palms, 5 silver saw palms, 24 silver buttonwoods surrounding the trees throughout the adjacent right-of-way, consistent with an exhibit that I'm going to show you in a minute. Developer also committed to making a contribution to the neighborhood association. That would get paid immediately after final approval of the project. Also agreed to provide directional lighting along the exterior of the project, provide a hose bib beside the dumpster within the development project, provide off-site and off-street parking accommodations during construction for the construction crews so that they don't park in the neighborhood adjacent to the project. Subject to Fort Lauderdale's approval, developer agreed to hire an off-duty police officer to facilitate traffic whenever big construction trucks are coming in to make sure that it doesn't impact the neighborhood. Shall also ensure that any debris associated with the construction of the development project will not be placed in any public right-of-way or neighboring properties, and shall maintain the construction site in accordance with all applicable requirements, keep it clean and neat. Developer shall use extreme caution in order to preserve adjacent city and private properties of the construction. And of course, the developer agrees to be responsible for the cost of any repair of any roadside, curb, swale, sidewalk damages, anything that results directly from any construction activities. So we signed this and we sent this over to the president of the association, and I'll let him speak to that. This is the email that you all received from the president of the association. Again, I'll let Mr. and Sarah speak to that. And we made a lot of changes to the buildings themselves. There was a lot of comment about this was the previous project that was presented to you. They look very plain, boxy, white. Modern is the style, but I think there was a lot of room for improvement, and so we made a lot of changes to the project that I'd like to share with you. So these are the previous renderings, and these are the updated architectural features. So you can see we've not only have we very meticulously increased the amount of landscaping throughout the site, but the buildings themselves have gone through significant architectural improvements. This is a really good image because you can see the car coming in off the street, the landscaping that was added along the buffer to really, this is a beautiful neighborhood with a lot of mature trees, and so it really adds to the neighborhood aesthetic. Both internal, we added a lot of trees, internal and external. So you can see here the architectural features. They went from sort of plain white boxes, and we've added a lot of architectural elements and interest. This is also a really good image that shows the fence that's in front of the project, which is those stone columns with iron gates in between. And here's the privacy fence that the neighbor wanted. So it's a little different than the fencing that's on the remainder of the project, but this was very important to her in that it's opaque and you can't see through it. So on that side of the project, that's the commitment to that neighbor. And you can see that there are trees now, her trees on one side, but also it makes it clear that there are also trees on the developer side inside the fencing. We also updated, this is what it looks like. So you can see the interior of the project. There's a lot of mature, dense trees that will be installed interior. And then you can see there's the guest parking right in the middle there. And so this image, I took the trees out of this image that are in the swale because I wanted to show the fence and I really wanted to show the architectural features. But you can see that it's gone through a lot of improvements. And here we added the trees back in so you can see the trees and the ferns that are part of the letter commitment. This is what the units look like. There are 17 units, and we have ample space for the fire trucks, for the garbage trucks, and guest parking, and of course handicap parking. And this is the landscaping plan that shows where those additional landscaping elements were added. This is obviously a hand drawing, but this is the exhibit to the letter, the commitment letter that we wrote to the neighborhood that talks about what the additional landscaping is. And that concludes my presentation, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. Any questions for the applicant's counsel? Seeing none at this time, we will go ahead and open this up for public comment and discussion. What we do, folks, is if you are a head of an association, we allow you 5 minutes, and if you're speaking on an item, you're allowed 2 minutes. So the cards that I have for this item, we have Ted Insura. Ted, are you here? Good evening, Ted. When you come to the microphone, please announce your name and if you have a special designation such as the Homeowners Association President. Thank you.
My name is Ted Insura. I am the president of the River Oaks Civic Association. With me, I have our minutes from that meeting, and I have the sign-in sheet of everybody that was at the meeting. We had 47 people at the meeting. I was at the last meeting last year when this was denied, and rightfully so by the board here. It was I spoke. I was not the president at the time. I was just a angry resident guy, and we had Nancy Long was our president back there, and she spoke it. And it was at the time it was to the neighborhood just a disaster. And we were glad we won it at that time. And then, boy, let me tell you, it's just night and day between then and now. And with the work, we had Stephanie come out to our the construction and the investors came out to our meeting. It was a well-attended meeting. It was a well-participated meeting. She had all the PowerPoints. There was a lot of discussion. We went over everything. As you can see, what she said here, stuff they did, they did go above and beyond, what we want, in ours. Now, there was, with the 20 paid members that were at the meeting, it was 12-4, 8 against. But on the board itself, it was unanimous. On the River Oaks Civic Association board, we were unanimous in favor of it. I've said a lot of things at this planning and zoning meeting. I've said, a lot of things. But I'm going to say something that I've never said before, that I'm actually in favor of this project, in favor of this development. With what we are presented, we know, it is zoned for this area, so there's not a lot of recourse we can have. But let me tell you, what we got and the work we've had with Stephanie, and we trust them, completely. They've already done things above and beyond. We had some dumping on that site, not by them, but like mattresses and just, in the dead of night, people throwing stuff off, and they cleaned it out of there. Where they didn't, it wasn't by them, it was just some random dumping, and it was taken care of. And we have our board has all the faith in the world that everything that we talked about is going to come through, and we feel like we have a great line of communication with them, and we can go to them anytime, and they will answer promptly and respectfully. And so you were right once, and hopefully now we'll be right again on this time, and we are okay with this development. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Nocera. All right, Nancy Long. Nancy, am I giving you 2 minutes or am I giving you 5 minutes? Are you a...
Past president ambassador for the neighborhood.
Okay.
I don't agree with Ted.
Hang on. I got to set the timer. Please, for the record, give us
Nancy
your...
Long. I'm past president, River Oaks Civic Association, and ambassador from the city, named the ambassador in 2018. So I speak for the neighborhood at several presentations. This is River Oaks. The board. You look, you don't see one flat roof in there. These are a lot of apartments around them. They all have the roof that has a pitch with shingles on them and tile on them. Not one has this flat roof system. Our first presentation that was given to us was nice homes that match the rest of the rental apartments in the neighborhood. At our civic association, the owner stood up and said these are not residential for sale. There are rentals. They're going to be rental properties. There's not going to be an HOA. They're going to have a management company. So what they told us at that meeting, I called the fire department and I talked to them, and because I was concerned with the parking. They said with the parking, if the garages are full, because they only had a few spots for guests, they could park in front of the garage on that street that goes into their property. This is what they told us at the meeting. Okay, and then the water retainage is the same system that was submitted for 2397 Southwest 18th Avenue, and it couldn't meet the storm water. Now, they did not give us calculations for these storm drains that they're presenting. They give us the drawings, but the drawings are the exact same drawings as for a piece of property with 3 cluster homes that didn't meet our storm requirements. So a lot of the stuff that they brought up tonight, I was sent the plans, do not match the plans that I was sent. It only shows a 2. Everything says proposed on it. The fencing still says 4 feet picket fence. So all these pictures and these letters, we get these a lot from these developers, and they don't come through. We have townhouses across from me. We're supposed to be lushly landscaped with this beautiful electric fence. The owners, the people moved in. They didn't get it. They got the permit. They closed it out. The owners had to put in the landscaping. The owners had to put in their own fences. So a lot of these letters, promises we get are never followed through with. So I myself and the immediate people that live around these cluster homes do not agree with what Ted said, that we don't want it there. There's nowhere to park. I don't know why they say they're going to have off-street parking for construction crews. Were they going to get a bus and bus them in and out, or chauffeurs or something? There's nowhere to park. The whole piece of property is eaten up by homes. I don't understand how they say they can have off-street parking for construction. There's nowhere to park. Across the street is a house that has 5 tenants in it. That's a crew house. It's full of cars. They're parking on the swells. They park in the streets. They park everywhere. We have to go and ask them to get out of the way so people can get in and out. It's a nightmare. So the things that they said today did not completely follow up with what was presented at our civic association and what the owner actually said at that association. And she sells it as a single-family home that's going to be sold. When he he said, no, they're going to be rental properties. They're rental houses. They're not single-family homes for sale. So everything that was said tonight is completely different than what was presented to us in previous. Even the drawings have not, they've changed them to these flat little boxes that don't fit into our neighborhood. The city has a neighborhood compatibility and enhancement program. And the rentals in this River Oak area, all of them have pitched roofs. There's no flat roofs for rentals or for cluster homes or for large area, even the 5-unit clusters or the 5 units of townhouses are beautifully done, stucco with nice roofs, pitch roofs, nice entrances. None of this concrete flat cubicles that they want to put in. And it says that the city's neighborhood enhancement principles state the goals, objectives, and policies in place with special focus on the context and character of the neighborhood. The developments to be compatible with the preserve and the character to what is existing by improving and mitigate adverse impacts such as traffic noise, odors, shadows, scale, visual, or other adverse effects. This cluster home does not fit in with anything else in the neighborhood. It doesn't. We have single-family homes, we have apartment buildings, but none of them have flat roofs of concrete. And as far as that letter, we've gotten them before. We got a letter from the marina to get our speed bumps in 7 years ago. We gave the city $80,000. We still don't have speed bumps. We're fighting for them for 5 years. We still don't have them. These letters don't mean anything. What it means is for you guys to make it compatible with the rest of us that live there, and you don't come and make them comply with this letter. We brought them into TAM. We're still fighting. So the letter, everything they presented is not on the current plans that were presented to us. If they've updated them, they haven't been sent to us. So I object to it because it's on the end of my street, and everybody on my street doesn't like it. Ted lives in a whole other area, River Oaks, way over by the Citrus Isles. I live in that neighborhood, and we do not appreciate them putting the box homes in there.
Thank you, Ms. Long. Is there anybody else?
Votes, 47 people did all 47 people vote?
They weren't members. They weren't all members. It was just a audience, a lot of people I'd never seen before. The members, they didn't count just members, which is supposed to be our Civic Association is only supposed to take members' votes. They took whoever was their vote. So it really didn't apply.
That's not true. It was 12 to 8. There was 20 paid members there. 47 people.
Excuse me, if you're Chair, if we can have.
I was going to ask him to clarify, so, okay. That was going to be my next question.
Just noted
okay,
that
thank you.
The discussion is recorded, and so anything off mic will not be a part of the record, so.
All right, I'll ask him again. Thank you, Nancy.
You're welcome.
So I'm of the impression that there's a rebuttal to your question.
Yeah, I was going to ask
And
Mr.
so
Ansara. I just
probably
want an
ask-
explanation for who was running the meeting and how the vote was taken,
Well,
just so we know.
Stephanie, this is your meeting. Would you like to have him respond? I just want to make sure.
Yes, there was a total of 40, like I said, exactly like I said, 47 people were at the meeting. There was 20 paid members. The vote was 12 in favor, 8 against, but the board itself was unanimous in favor. That is a fact.
Does that answer your question, Mary? Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. So is there anyone else from the public that would like to be heard on this item? Hearing and seeing none, we're going to close the public portion of this item and bring it back to the board for further discussion or a motion.
I have a question.
Yes, ma'am.
The letter of developer contributions, I did not see it in our packet. Was it submitted?
We intend to submit it tonight. I also want to address one thing. It's accurate to say the plans have not been updated. These are commitments that we made to the neighborhood, and I know you know this. The plans cannot get out of DRC. You have to get a final DRC certificate, and the purpose of the final DRC certificate is to ensure that any commitments that are made are captured on the plans. So the plans will be updated to show the third well, to show the landscaping, all the things. And the letter, I did bring a copy to submit.
I would like to have that letter. Can you please distribute it? I'm sure everybody would like to have a copy.
You can put it back up on the screen though, can't you?
Mike, can I ask a question? Or is Marilyn not finished?
Hang on, let's make sure
I'm
that
reading the
Marilyn's
letter. You
done.
go ahead.
Okay. So you're making that letter
I do
part
have extra
of the
copies.
conditions
That's
on this
correct.
project?
That is correct. Roya brought copies.
Thank you.
Copies of the letter? Well, Jim's going to be making copies. All right, thank you.
Jim, they found copies.
Can I ask Mr.
Marilyn, are you
Spencer?
done?
No, I wanted to, I have, everybody's got the letter? I just
Yeah.
I wanted to confirm with the staff
Yeah.
that what Ms. Toothaker said, the fact that what we're seeing tonight, or what is in the application, is not the updated plans, but the updated plans are the ones that will be approved on final DRC. The reason I ask is because we've been here before.
We're going to ask the board if they could please condition that based on what Stephanie just requested. So any improvements that are not included on the current plans would be conditioned prior to final DRC, that they be reflected on the plans.
Right. Okay, yes. So I hear you. Yes, okay. I'm done.
Thank you. Mary?
Okay, can I make a motion, or do you want me to talk?
Let me make sure there's no other comment from any other board members. Motion, Mary.
Okay, I just want to say this has come a long way from our first meeting, and I know that I made the motion to deny, and then we opened it back up, because at that first meeting, many of us were hoping a neighborhood conversation would happen, and it didn't seem like it was going to. And now it has, and it seems like we have these conditions. So I'm going to move, hold on, my phone just closed up here. I'm going to move to approve the resolution approving a site plan level 3 case number PLR 19062 based on the findings of facts by the city staff and the testimony received here. And we find that the application meets the standards and requirements and the ULDR and criteria for the proposed use as cited in the resolution, and also attach this letter with these conditions to be met before it leaves DRC with a final.
Deputy City Attorney Dwayne Spence, if I can ask you to, with regards to the conditions of this letter, add an additional caveat to the extent allowable by law.
Okay, to the extent allowable by law that these conditions will be met prior to the permit being issued by DRC. Or
Could I ask you all to add what the staff suggested, and that the drawings which were presented today as the updated drawings will be presented to DRC and will be representative in the final DRC approval?
I already added what Mr. Spence said, and I would add that on the drawings, but I thought there was some confusion whether this was the final set or not.
The set will need to be updated to reflect everything that's in that letters, and that will happen before the plans can leave DRC. They will not be able to get a final DRC stamp, and you can't go to building without a final DRC stamp.
Ella, you're in agreement with that?
Yes, that's correct. If the board can add that as a condition, that's correct. And,
Maybe
and
I
what
didn't phrase
Attorney
it correctly,
Spence
so should I start over again? But not read the whole thing, just go to the conditions. And so on the conditions, I'm submitting this letter from Ms. Toothaker with a variety of conditions, including that the plans will be updated before the final, updated to reflect what's in this letter before DRC gives it a final approval and it is stamped.
That's correct.
To the extent allowable by law.
I would second that, except I don't think that that's adequate. I think that the drawings which are presented here tonight showing the picket fence and the additional landscaping is not reflected in this letter. And I would like to see that the drawings that are presented here tonight, which are so lovely and so appreciated by the Civic Association, are in fact the drawings that will be presented to the to DRC for final approval.
So if I add one last sentence saying, and that the fence that was shown in the presentation by applicant will be included in the plans?
I don't think it's just the fence. I mean, there's significant landscaping
It's here.
improvements here.
It's on the back.
Significant landscaping, but this does not show the fence.
The fence is in the renderings. Yes, we agree to the fence that's in the rendering that was chosen by the neighbor. And we also agree to the landscaping that's attached as an exhibit.
Yeah. I just want to make sure.
Yeah,
We've
understood.
been here before.
Understood.
And I don't want the community to be disappointed.
No, we don't either. And our
Okay.
intention is.
All right, then
is
I will second it with that amendment.
Adding the fence that was shown in the presentation
Correct.
tonight? Okay. Anything else, anybody?
Okay, we have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second by Ms. Mamano. Any further discussion before we vote? Leslie, if you call the roll, please.
Mr. Cohen?
Yes.
Ms. Ferdig?
Yes.
Mr. Gannon?
Yes.
Ms. Mamano?
Yes.
Ms. McCartney?
Yes.
Mr. McTeague?
Yes.
Mr. Scheckman?
Yes.
And Chair Weymouth?
Yes.
Passed 8-0.
Thank you very much. And
Have a good evening. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Ferdig.
And
Thank
can
you
I
for
say,
your last
can I
meeting.
say, not gratuitously, thank you to the applicant for being so responsive and for hiring a good development team that was able to pull this off, and
Thank
the
you.
community.
Thank you very much. Thank you again to the neighbors. Thank you.
You didn't have your microphone on. You may want to say that again.
And to the neighborhood, because they had a great showing and they really persevered.
That's what I thought you said. Okay, case number 2, case UDP V23006. Jane Storm, Police Land Surveyors. I'm going to take this the wrong way, but you don't look like Jane, but I'm going to go with disclosures anyway. Marilyn, do you have any disclosures?
None.
Patrick?
None.
Sherry?
No.
Brett?
None.
Jay?
None.
Steve?
None.
Mary?
Yes, but should I add my disclosures for the previous matter, or should I do that afterwards?
Let's get it out of the way now. So let's
So
go
on
back.
the previous matter, I just want to say that I spoke with Ms. Toothaker and I read Mr. and Sarah's letter that we received from Ms. Parker. And on this one, I visited the site.
So do you have any disclosure for this case?
Yeah, I visited the site.
Oh, okay. Sorry, I didn't hear you.
Well, I did that on both.
Good evening, sir. For the record, please state your name.
Good evening. My name is Connor Holding. I'm an attorney here with Hone and Knight. As you all can very well see, I am not Jana Loda. I'm subbing in for her tonight as she was called away to D.C. So pleased to be here with you tonight. I'm here on behalf of Kiewit Water Facilities, Florida, the builder of the new Prospect Lake Clean Water Plant. And we have a couple members of Kiewit with us here tonight as well that are happy to answer any questions along the way if those pop up. We are before you this evening requesting your recommendation to accommodate the development of the Prospect Lake Clean Water Center, which once fully operational will replace the existing 5-ash plant. The board already advanced the application to plat the property to the City Commission. However, the two applications seeking to vacate a portion of the Hawkins Road right-of-way were deferred and are before you again tonight. At the time Jana spoke with you last month, there were questions relative to the application to vacate. Since that time, no objection letters have been received from all applicable utilities, including Florida Power and Light, and we believe all remaining issues with respect to the vacation application have been received and resolved, As previously outlined by Jana, to accommodate any future needs, the portion of the right-of-way that is not directly needed for the plant infrastructure will be dedicated as a public utilities easement on the plat, which shall also include a private ingress and egress easement. For both vacation applications, we refer to the application materials and the staff reports included in the backup that demonstrate that the right-of-way vacations approval satisfy the criteria for approval of the same in the city's code. At this point, we are prepared to move forward. We ask that you recommend for approval the 2 applications. Thank you.
Any questions for the applicant before we open it up to the public for comment? Is there anybody here from the public that would like to comment on this item? Hearing and seeing none, we will close the public portion of this, bring it back to the board. Is
Chair.
there further discussion or a motion?
Chair, I would like Deputy City Attorney Dwayne Spencer. Just wanted to thank the board for deferring this item at the last meeting. Between that time and our resolution that we got with FP&L, FP&L actually had some issues with the boundaries of the proposed easement, and that was resolved. We got the no objection letter from them prior to this meeting, and thank you for listening to council and allowing us to get this rectified before coming before you. So we're comfortable moving forward.
Good, thank you. Any discussion, motion?
That was my question, so thank you for answering that.
Okay. Anybody with a motion?
Where's the cheat sheet?
Is this the resolution you sent us, Ella? No.
No, it's just a motion.
Just a motion to approve?
You're making a recommendation to the city commission on
Okay.
that vacation.
Are we doing these one by one, or can we do them all together?
One by one, please.
Okay. So on UDP V23006, I move to recommend this to the city commission.
Second.
What, recommending approval?
Yes.
Just move it.
That's just a small technicality, but we'll
That's
address
why I
it.
was
So
seconding.
we have a motion.
Oh, wait,
we
now
have
it's
a
an
second.
approval? Oh, that's a different story. No, I still second.
So we have a motion and a second for approval of this item. Any further discussion? Leslie, if you'd call the roll, please.
Ms.
Is-
Furtick?
1 second,
Yes.
please, sorry. With staff conditions, or?
Oh, of
Yeah, I thought we
course.
disclosed that at the outset, that we're including staff conditions on all items.
Oh, I thought you were including the staff reports. I didn't understand. Okay.
They're all the same to me, Dwayne.
All right, thank you. I'm a little rusty, Chair.
All right, Ms. Furtick?
Yes.
Mr. Gannon?
Yes.
Ms. Mamano?
Yes.
Ms. McCartney?
Yes.
Mr. McTeague?
Yes.
Mr. Scheckman?
Yes.
Mr. Cohen?
Yes.
And Chair Weymouth.
Yes.
Passed 8-0.
Motion passes. Case number UDP V23007, same presenter, same. Is there anybody from the public wishing to be heard on this item? Seeing, hearing none, we'll close the public portion, bring it back to the board. Does anybody like to make a motion on this item or further discussion?
Sure, I'll make a motion. First of all, I want to tell everybody this is a beautiful area, so drive up there sometime. Okay, I move to recommend approval that the City Commission approve UDP V23007 with staff conditions and all the staff reports and anything else we can think of be included.
Second.
We have a motion, we have a second. Any further discussion? Leslie, if you'd call the roll, please.
Mr. Gannon?
Yes.
Ms. Mamano?
Yes.
Ms. McCartney?
Yes.
Mr. McTeague?
Yes.
Mr. Scheckman?
Yes.
Mr. Cohen?
Yes.
Ms. Furtick?
Yes.
And Chair Weymouth.
Yes.
8-0.
Thank you. Have a good evening. Okay, thank you. Okay, the next 3 cases have to do with the same development. Can we hear these 3 cases together? Is the applicant comfortable in presenting the 3 cases simultaneously? Ms. Crush. Is the city okay with that? If we hear all 3 at the same time, we'll vote independently on each item?
Yes, as long as we're clear on the voting, that
Yep.
voting separately.
Absolutely understood. All right, before we start, let's hear from disclosures. Marilyn, we'll start again down at your end.
Just a
From this
Google
one.
search.
I'm sorry?
Just a Google search.
Just a Google search, okay? Patrick?
Site visit and spoke to counsel for the applicant.
Sherry?
I spoke to the applicant's counsel, Ms. Crush.
Spoke to applicant's counsel and site visit.
Spoke to applicants council and site visit.
Spoke to applicants council and site visit.
And I spoke with the applicant's counsel, and I visited the site.
And I as well spoke to the applicant's counsel and visited the site. So, good evening. We might as well take these in order once we go to voting. So however you want to present them, but we're going to vote in order of what's here. No.
Certainly, Mr. Chair. Given the fact that there are two blocks here, if it is okay with the chair and the board, I'd like to describe the proposed site plans and the alley vacation component, and then return to the individual items as you stated, and take them in order. Good evening. My name is Courtney Crush with Crush Law on behalf of Integra Investments. With me this evening is Michael Belkin with Integra, and Victor Ballesteros, who's also with us. We also have our architect, Adolfo, with Nichols, and Craven Thompson, our civil engineer, landscape architects, and Suzanne Danielson, our traffic engineer, all of whom are available to answer questions as the board may have as we go forward. We're here for two site plans and an alley vacation for properties which are situate north of Oakland Park Boulevard on the east side of the Intracoastal, and that is with an associated parking reduction. The properties are outlined in blue on the screen. Many of you are familiar with the existing Bow Campers property and restaurant. That property and the majority of the block to its east, which today, as you can see, is a portion of a surface parking lot, which is also owned by PDKN, who are the Bow Campers principals, and the commercial retail, which faces north onto 32nd Street. Existing site conditions, again, this is looking west towards the west and a little bit north towards the Bow Campers property. Looking north, 32nd Avenue is the address of the west parcel, and 32nd Street will be the address of the east, so I'm not overlapping. As you can see the context, there are high-rise buildings along the Intracoastal Waterway, and then as we turn internal, and what's over on the right is the commercial eastern block that I shared with you. And to the left of the screen is the city's new-ish, hopefully soon to be occupied fire station. And then in the background is L'Hermitage, and you start to see the southern end of Galt Ocean Mile. The Mile hotels are proposed as two site plans. The Mile West is proposing to reintroduce two ground-level restaurants to take the place of the existing Bow Campers. They will be separated by a public paseo to the waterway, and there will be no parking proposed on the west parcel. As you can see, there is generous streetscape, landscaping. We are proposing to relocate the back-out parking that is in front of Bow Campers right now for the vast majority, with the exception of the 4 spaces at the north, into the site plan that you will see on the east, and I'll discuss in more detail, the ground level. So taking city metered parking, bringing it into an enclosed area on the ground floor with meters with appropriate signage. As you can also see, the proposal on the east seeks to reintroduce neighborhood serving retail, hotel and neighborhood serving retail. So we are proposing to return about 7,000 square feet of retail facing 32nd Street. And wanted you to have this context before I took you through each of the plans in more detail, because while these are independent site plans, this is intended to operate as one hotel operation. You can see the synergies. There will be drop-off on the Mile West, and also then the garage operation on the east. As I stated, the parking in the North Beach shops is certainly something that can be at a premium. While the city constructed the Tides garage, people do not care to walk that far. So making sure that we maintain as many city metered parking was something we worked probably for about 4 months on design and redesign to ensure that we could make that ground floor publicly accessible. At the same time, creating a active streetscape on the north, and also introducing design elements on the south, which is the Oakland Park Boulevard access road. You'll see in the green, we have, those are both going to be, active uses for the hotel, not retail open to the public, but to really give some, to life, even to the access road certainly at the west end. As I mentioned, PDKN owns the majority of the block. You'll see an existing office. The owner of that building welcomes the hotel, welcomes the alley vacation. He has an insurance company. I think he sees that his block today is tired, and thinks that with the hotel marrying both, and creating streetscape and some retail and restaurant opportunities, his overall experience improves. He actually accesses his building from the alley and has a garage that takes him into the north of the property. This is a rendering of the Mile East, and I'm starting there because the Mile East is the site that has the parking contained in it. We are proposing, as you can see, the ground level retail, taking great pains to reintroduce green, wide sidewalks. We're actually reconstructing the entire southern half of 32nd Street. When the fire station was built, for whatever reason, the road slopes to the center. So the Craven team had some design challenges working with the city to make, because obviously we don't want our roads to drain to the center, to make sure that grading in that public infrastructure road was designed appropriately. Also made sure, and this is with the help of city staff, to make sure that the two sites spoke to each other. So you'll see, for example, the building, the garage is pulled back, but there's public space there, and we actually introduced a lobby for the Mile Hotel East. Took a great amount of care trying to introduce screening on the garage that's architecturally interesting, shields light, but also keeps that light feeling overall. And on the east, we are proposing to locate 70 of the hotel rooms. Different perspective, as you can see, this is if you were on the Oakland Park Bridge. You can see the access into the garage. You can also see that we brought the glass as far south and a little bit east as possible, to keep that a lighted space. Again, the access road is something that doesn't have and probably isn't able to accommodate a lot of activity, but we wanted to make sure that to the extent feasible, we could certainly do that. You see the hotel rooms up above and the amenity deck, which is behind the glass railing. This is just looking due north. Just wanted you to be able to see the treatment and the facade from this location. Ground level view of the plaza entry area that is still on the Mile East, the lobby entrance, which we really think is welcoming. And you see over on the left how we're recreating a very, very enjoyable streetscape with, again, ground level retail uses. Entry into the garage. This rendering gives you an experience of how the two site plans and the architecture relates to each other and how the site design really is complementary. The Mile Hotel West, which I'll take you through shortly, is proposing, as I mentioned, 2 waterfront restaurants. As a waterway use, as this board well knows, we are set back 20 feet from the property line or the seawall, then have an amenity deck, and then the tower steps back to 30 feet to 65 feet. So from the boater's experience and from a pedestrian's experience, trying not to loom over the intracoastal waterway. Adolfo's design, again, introduces a significant amount of glass movement, clean design, which we're very, very proud of. Waterfront perspective of the Mile West. Again, I think you can appreciate the movement, how dining outside at this location is something that is going to be enjoyed not only by the diners, hotel guests, but residents in the neighborhood, business owners, whether they be at Galt Ocean Mile or on the east side of the Intracoastal. This is a east perspective. One of the things that we heard from our neighbors throughout the course of, I would say, the last year, I think we started meeting with different buildings and neighbors last March, was to be very sensitive to several things. One of them happened to be trash and loading activity, where you see the car in the reflection at the ground level, the white car. We had 2 loading zones, so trucks pulling in, having activity. That seemed to make sense because you had a restaurant and a hotel operation. However, listening to the neighbors, we are now consolidating, and you can see it on the left, this into one back of house loading facility closest to the Oakland Park access road as possible. Again, I think you can appreciate the activity. There's the lobby at the ground floor. We are making sure we're coming off the road to drop off cars. This building here also steps back and also provides a generous setback on the north. This is the community business zoning district. It is intended to be on arterials and allows hotels, restaurants, office buildings, et cetera, and as well as mixed use. The setbacks under the code are 0 feet on your side setbacks unless you're abutting residential, 5 feet on the front and 20 feet as we discussed on the water. We are providing to our tower 20 feet, again, to design and site in a way that is in context and complementary and respectful of our neighbors. This is a close-up view of the Paseo. As part of the waterway use analysis, having access to the water at different locations, public physical access, we can't view this just from the perspective of boaters. So we are allowing, I'm going to dedicate a public license so that anybody from the public who would like to walk through the Paseo, doesn't have to go to the restaurant, can go sit on the docks and enjoy the waterway. Just providing, I think, a neighborhood access point or amenity that we really think is going to be appreciated by the nearby community. This is the same Paseo viewed from the water. As you can see, nice opportunities to experience the water or walk to the dock. Wanted to share with you the buildings in context with our neighbors. As you can see, a lot of residential to our north. It seems to me this has been commercial zoning and commercial land use for a very long time. However, we do have residents to the north who are residential. Certainly, we're west of Galt Ocean Mile, and we are at the southwest corner of the North Beach shops. Different perspective. I think that we have taken care to not only recreate a streetscape, to make sure that there is significant glass activity that we really expect will be an anchor or a bookend to this portion of the North Beach shops area, providing some foot traffic with our hotel guests, providing a reason to walk along in a little less tired environment from the retail because the retail was old. And importantly, introducing a strong component of pedestrian realm, safe streets, shade-lined streets, and in terms of design and siting on the property, as you can see, we've taken great care to, I think, maintain a respectful balance. We have high-rise buildings that range, I think, from 193 feet to 70 feet around us. We also have single-story retail, so recreating that single-story retail component and hopefully being an asset to the commercial businesses at the same time introducing a hotel use at this location designed to be complementary to our residential neighbors is something we worked very, very hard on. We are also here for a parking reduction. And as I mentioned, the parking will all be in the Mile Hotel East. We are proposing to provide 368 parking spaces. Now, the city's code, if you're not in the Central Beach, calls out that you should have one parking space for every hotel room. I know this board sees a very large number of hotel parking reduction requests. The fact is, and our traffic engineer, Suzanne Danielson, is here. She compared other studies. She also recently advised me that the Institute of Traffic Engineers has been studying this. Everybody is not renting a car and coming to a hotel room. If you're downtown or near the airport, it's actually about 50%. ITE's recently published proposed parking rate is 0.65 for this type of hotel. We are proposing 0.71, which is slightly higher than the city ULDR for the beach, which is 0.67, and then proposing to park our retail and restaurant space. And there was also a shared analysis done on a certain number, not a significant number of people who may be staying in the hotel and will walk downstairs and go to the restaurant. We worked very hard with city staff, and the city's transportation engineer has reviewed and recommended the parking reduction study. One of the other things that's important to the city, it's certainly important to this neighborhood, is infrastructure. In addition to repaving, recreating, re-elevating roads and putting things at the right elevation, we are also committed to relining 1,924 feet of a gravity sewer between Oakland Park Access Road to the north. The pipe, from what I understand technically, the pipes are really, really leaky. They do not need to be upsized, but they do need to function. So Integra is committed to do that. In addition, we are upsizing, because it's warranted, 146 linear feet of water pipe from 8 to 10 inches, and then you'll see we're taking another 226 feet from 6 to 10 inches as one heads south. One final piece of infrastructure pipe. There is an existing gravity main that runs through the Mile East property. It's a carryover from prior vacations. It was never moved. So we are constructing almost, I think, 440 something feet of a new gravity pipe at that location as well. It will run down the middle of 32nd Street as it was intended to, I think, as back far as 2012. Now the alley vacation, you can see the small red area. I just didn't want to zoom in. I know we're all familiar with where we are, but we're on the east parcel. The city of Fort Lauderdale vacated the west half of this alley in 2012. PVKN, when it owned that small commercial building north of where it says CB, vacated that portion when they did the Beaucamper site plan. So that is no longer an alley, although as I mentioned, it still has a pipe in it, which was a condition of approval. We are proposing to vacate the yellow portion of the property. PVKN owns both sides of the alley. It is not necessary for public access because the alley dead ends effectively where it is today. We are proposing to maintain the alley for our very welcoming commercial neighbor. We've received the requisite no objection letters from the city and the utilities, and are relocating all, and then are reinstalling drainage and utilities for the commercial neighbor. Those are the standards in the city's ULDR for a vacation. It's not necessary for public purposes, and so that is the third application before you this evening. Just wanted to touch upon the opportunities that we've had to meet with our neighbors over, I guess, the past year, and then recently into the late 2023 and early 2024. We met with the Galt Community Association Board of Directors starting in March 2023. The Galt membership a little bit later. Michael and the team met with some of our immediate neighbors, the Continental Condominium, the Amerique, certain business owners. We also made a presentation to the Central Beach Alliance. Their neighborhood stops just on the other side of Oakland Park Boulevard. So we presented to their membership last May. And then we hosted a public participation meeting in November. It was well attended, but it was strongly recommended we do a follow-up community meeting with mail notice, and we did that on January 3rd and hosted it at the Beach Community Center to make sure that every property owner, business owner had the opportunity to come and speak with us. We have a letter of support from the Galt Mile Community Association. It's part of your backup, but I know your backup is voluminous. I believe their president is here, and I'll let him speak to the desirability of this and the things that the Galt membership found important. We also are very pleased to have a letter of support from the North Beach Restaurants and Shops, who are working very hard to create this neighborhood and believe that our uses, both the hotel and the design and the introduction of additional retail, is something they welcome. We also have a letter of support from the Maracay condominium, which is one of our neighbors on the Intercoastal 2 over, who are pleased to welcome us as a neighbor. And in your backup, you have several other support letters, but I'm not going to take you through each and every one of them. So, with respect to the applications before you, I think we're going to take them in what is up there as reverse order. And as the board well knows, but I never want to take for granted, we are before you on the Mile East because we are proposing a site plan that is greater than 10,000 square feet. All community business site plans that are of any size come before the board. There are no special criteria. There are no additional burdens. This is not a conditional use. It is a permitted use. So, but the code wants the board to say, are you a permitted use? Do you meet the dimensional requirements? So you're providing the landscaping. Has a traffic impact statement been done? We believe you will see both from the staff report, the applicant's application, and from our discussion here today, we have a code-compliant hotel on the Mile East, which I think has gone above and beyond to not only meet the dimensional requirements. The maximum height is 120 feet. I think we're at 118. We meet the setbacks, but we've then gone above and beyond into the public realm, think have provided something rather welcoming. With respect to the Mile West, we are here before you as a waterway use. This board well knows everything on the water comes to this board for consideration and approval, or consideration at least. And so the waterway use criteria really does speak to the experience from the water. That's why there are additional setbacks from the water, the 20 feet. As I mentioned in my presentation, we are not only 20 feet back, we have then taken it upon our design team to take a tower, so the height on the building, and move that back further west off the water. We are also here, as I mentioned, for the parking reduction. We think this is a very logical parking reduction. To park our hotel uses at 0.71 and then to accommodate the retail and restaurant within the garage. This is in addition to the 19 city spaces. Having been reviewed, we think is something that is going to work quite well. I do want to mention, because it has been asked, the garage will be open to the public. So there are city metered spaces, but the garage itself, save for some likely to be reserved spaces for the restaurant, anybody who's going to the shops, anybody who just wants to walk to the water, and certainly hotel guests, if they don't Uber, can park in the garage. And finally, the alley vacation. I know we're going to consider them. I don't know if you would like me to recap or you just wanted to consider them in order.
Whatever you please.
Well, the alley vacation, as I shared, the partial alley vacation, the criteria before the board are that is not needed for public purpose. This is a remnant of an alley that is sitting there that is, cannot be traversed further to the west. We are improving the experience by leaving it public or a neighbor to the east and providing all the infrastructure. We are also, with respect to the alley in the blue, I neglected to mention, everything that is in blue in there, while it dead ends today, we are introducing public access. So if one wants to drive all the way through the alley or walk all the way through the alley, that is something that we will be dedicating. So we're actually improving the functionality of what's a dead-end alley today. And with that, I'm happy to answer any questions. Mr. Chair, may I reserve a few minutes to the extent there are comments I might like to respond to?
Yes, you may.
Thank you.
Any questions for the applicant's counsel before we open this up to the public?
Is there anything to prevent the owner from selling just the mile west separate from the mile east?
Yes.
And what is that?
Parking. I guess there's no intention to do that. One is unlikely to construct such a significant number of parking spaces for 70 hotel rooms. But there needs to be an off-site parking agreement, so they will always be linked functionally.
Are you doing a parking agreement as part of this to functionally link the two?
Correct. A condition of approval of the west is that it must enter into and record a parking agreement on the east.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair, I have a question.
Marilyn?
Could you just go over the parking reduction one more time, the numbers? How many hotel rooms are there altogether between east and west?
320.
And how many parking spaces available to the hotel?
Well,
A total. Let's go with the total.
Are you talking about the requirement? The availability is not segmented.
No, I understand it's one garage.
Correct.
And on the ground floor, there will be metered parking spaces.
Right, which is not in the equation.
And what about that alley in the back where there's those angled-in parking? Whose parking is that? The alley? No, could you go to the site plan, please?
Certainly. I thought so. There we go.
The next one.
Nope.
The one that shows the parking behind the East Hotel.
It's like a plan view. Keep going. It's your retail plan view. There you go.
Okay.
Okay. That's the inside of the parking garage.
Correct.
And then where that the pink things are, there's a line of parking back there, as I saw it on the plan.
Yes, yes.
And whose parking is that?
That's
Is that
city.
available?
That's city metered parking.
City metered,
We
so-
are reconstructing, but not changing any numbers whatsoever.
Okay, so there's city metered parking on the ground floor that people can enjoy, and now there's a garage of how many cars?
368.
368, and that you said is going to be an open parking, so that people can just come
If they
from
would like,
anywhere.
if they would like to pay to park.
Pay to park, okay. You get your little phone out, you pay to park, okay. But aren't those parking spaces also providing parking
For the
guests?
hotel. And, just round numbers, if you looked at what we believe the hotel demand would be, it would be about 214 spaces.
That's the number I'm looking for.
Okay.
So the park for the hotel is much less, you believe, based upon your analysis. That is much less than that number of 300 and something spaces.
Absolutely. And
Okay.
actually, as someone who has done parking reductions for hotels, which included real counts, I personally believe it.
I understand.
Yes, sir.
Marilyn?
Jay?
Yes, I'm fine, thank you.
Jay?
For the alley, did I hear you correctly that you're gonna, from the alley, there'll be continuity like through the interior of the project
Garage.
as a passageway?
Correct.
And is that that's just pedestrian continuity
Or vehicular.
Yeah, or vehicular.
Yep.
Okay.
Our neighbor has advised he has no interest in driving through. But if he changes his mind, he can drive through the blue.
Okay. And has there been any thought into securing pedestrian safety, by creating some sort of separation? I'm just thinking through people walking through the alley and a car coming from around the corner.
I will have to ask the architect, and
Yeah.
we can certainly look at that. I actually don't anticipate, since the alley gets no activity today, I can't imagine a lot of people are going to choose to drive. I mean, the commercial, they certainly may, but you have roads, not far away, parallel to you. I don't see this as
but if you have people trying to enter or exit,
certainly.
for the hotel. I'm just trying to think about the pedestrian safety.
Certainly. And I think let me check with Adolfo on where the pedestrian paths. I know the city looks at that, then we can get you an answer.
Any other questions for the applicant's counsel before we open this up to the public? Okay, folks, we're going to open this up to the public. Obviously, there's a lot of people here that want to voice their opinions. As on the previous item, I'm going to try to control this. If you are the head of a HOA, we're going to afford you 5 minutes. I'm going to let you go first, and then everybody else will have 2 minutes. I will ask you, please respect the 2 minutes. We'll respect your time. The repetition of an item over and over and over again doesn't really resonate. We get it. So if somebody else has said something, usually we agree with so-and-so or whatever, just to move it along to respect everybody's time in the room. So I have got a whole bunch of people here, but I would like to start with anybody that may be an HOA president. Yes, sir. Come on forward. Give us your name. We're going to give you 5 minutes.
Thank you. My name is Fred Nesbitt. I'm the president of the Galt Mile Community Association, which is the official neighborhood association. We represent 36 high-rise condos, co-ops, hotels, as well as the North Beach shops and the Galt Ocean shops. We are very supportive of this project. We've had 2 separate meetings with the board of directors as well as the general group. When we first met with them, we sort of had some conditions, things we were looking for, such as increasing foot traffic in the North Beach shop. Something would be fit into our neighborhood. It would improve the environment and the quality of life in the neighborhood. And we thought this was a good fit. And I'm going to compliment Integra because we met with them at the end of the project. And at the beginning of the project, he said, we will do this. And I'm sure you've heard from sometimes the developer tells you one thing and then something else happens. But I'm happy to say that the changes they've made have been what we wanted and actually an improvement on it from that point of view. If you know the Galt Mile area, you'll know there's no open land in the Galt. We don't have any big green spaces where you can build. So if you're going to build something, you're going to have to tear something down to build it. And this is what was going to happen here. The replacement of boat campers for the West Hotel, and the East Hotel is basically a block that's pretty blighted. The shops are run down. It's a gravel parking lot, so we see that as a tremendous improvement. We're concerned about the North Beach shops because when I moved to Fort Lauderdale, I bought in 2001, I moved here in 2006. Some of you will remember the North Beach shops was made up of a couple of hair salons, a couple of real estate offices, and I think 1 restaurant. And the rest of it was pretty empty and pretty blighted. And we thought, will this neighborhood ever come back? Well, it has come back. It's coming back. And we're working very hard to continue to make it grow, to bring more people to the North Beach shops. So we're excited about the hotel because we think it will bring foot traffic into the neighborhood, bring foot traffic into not only the North Beach shops, but also the Galt Ocean shops and into the general neighborhood. We think it's positive from that point of view. I know you hear from people in Fort Lauderdale who say, stop it, don't build anymore. Fort Lauderdale shouldn't change. It should stay like it was 20, 30 years ago, and we should be just sort of hang here. But as we know, Fort Lauderdale is the economic center of Broward County. And unless we grow, unless we make changes, unless we enhance it, we will no longer be the economic center. Somebody else will be. I'm from Pennsylvania, and I've seen this several times, where a city in the county was the economic center of the county. They allowed no growth, no development, and the cities now. It comes with Il Lagano, which is sort of the other end, which is a hotel and a condo combination. We think it will provide growth. It will provide enhancement, the values of the neighborhood. I know that some people are opposed. But going back, I remember when boat campers were built, some people were opposed to that. And when Il Lagano was built, some people were opposed to that. But we think from the Galt Mile point of view, the board has voted unanimously to support this project, and we believe it will be a good fit. It will enhance our neighborhood. It will help the economic growth of our neighborhood, both the North Beach shops and the Galt Ocean shops, and we look very much forward to this project being approved and under construction. So
Thank
with
you,
that,
Mr.
we
Nesbitt.
lend our total support. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions for Mr. Nesbitt? Thank you, sir. Anyone else here that's, yes, sir.
Good evening. My name is David Farmer, and I'm here as a representative of the Continental Condominium Owners Association on behalf of the Board of Directors. Thank you, everyone, for giving us the opportunity to speak here today. To clarify, we are not trying to halt progress. We understand the only thing constant is change. However, we are here to remind everyone that this city has a comprehensive plan, and we would like each of you to consider that comprehensive plan moving forward and as you vote on this project. While there is much in the plan, the city's comprehensive plan, these are the things that caught my attention when I reviewed it. Land use element. This is a quote from the plan. Preserve the character of existing lower density neighborhoods. Development based on context, including appropriate building mass and scale. Urban design element. This is also quoted from the plan. Encourage high quality building materials and architectural treatments. Transitions between lower scale neighborhood areas. Also from the plan. Transportation and mobility. And this has already been raised by several of you already this evening. Complete streets program implementation, redesign streets, promote safety for users of all ages, abilities, and modes. When we were talking earlier about the alleyway, and council was saying that, well, there's not going to be any traffic down there. You've all been over there and seen what this is like. When there are another 200 cars going through that neighborhood every day, certainly people are going to use that alley as a way to get through when the streets are crowded. So to say that people are not going to use it, I think is a bit disingenuous. Each of you here today has witnessed the incredible growth of Fort Lauderdale over the years. Certainly a far cry here now than it was from the spring break days of the 1970s. We understand, again, change has been constant over the decades, and it's vital for any community. But that's not our focus today. We are here to ask for your help and the developers' help. We want the board to support the community and the people that have lived and supported Fort Lauderdale for decades, and that's what we're asking for. If I'm going to be really blunt, we do not want to be steamrolled by progress. Our building is immediately adjacent to this project. We are asking for your help to embrace change by honoring those who've celebrated all of the good things and some of the not so good things about Fort Lauderdale over the decades. Beneath all the new glitz and glamour, there's still the small Italian bakeries and synagogues and neighborhood bars, and we don't want to lose that character of Fort Lauderdale. We want to maintain that as part of what we have in our community. We're committed to trying to make this work for everyone. But we want to ensure ongoing progress, but without losing the soul of what is Fort Lauderdale. Our building, our condominium, is not just a collection of units. We're a close-knit community where generations have lived and thrived. Our apprehension regarding these projects stems from its substantial impact on our daily lives and even potentially on the integrity of our building. These are our main concerns, and I sent a letter out to everyone prior to this, and there's a lot more detail than what I'm going to go into today, but I'm going to highlight a few of our main concerns. The first is view preservation. If views can't be preserved, there needs to be some sort of compensation for the individuals who are going to lose value in their properties by no longer having water views. We're also asking for property value protection for all of our residents to mitigate the devaluation of any properties due to not only lost views, but the disruptions caused by years of construction. And this next one is really vital, and it's construction damage assurance. We've invested significantly in our building safety. We spent over $1 million, which is a drop in the bucket for the developers here today, but to ensure the safety of our building. And fortunately, we did this prior to the collapse of the Surfside condos, and we want to maintain that safety to the extent we possibly can. We're also seeking some sort of robust plan for noise and dust mitigation throughout the multiple years that the project is going to be underway. And again, I know this has been raised several times and discussed, but traffic and safety management. If you've been over there, and I know that you all have, it's a 2-lane road. There's not a lot of room to develop any more infrastructure as far as planning is concerned, city planning, but we're trying to obtain some sort of plan that will help manage traffic flow and pedestrian safety. We have a lot of other important concerns that I've mentioned in my letter, including some sort of liaison between our community and the developers to also to address any issues that arise during the development process. Before I close, I want to leave you with a quote from Henry David Thoreau. Things do not change, we change. But as we change with the times, we cannot cast aside those who built and sustained this community that we're now trying to enhance. As you continue to vote for change and build a new Fort Lauderdale, I hope that you can find a place for the old Fort Lauderdale, which I believe the city's comprehensive plan fully supports. We're committed to a dialogue, constructive dialogue, and hopeful solutions that respect both the development's goals and our community's existing rights. Your decision can help ensure that the development not only adds value to our neighborhood, but also preserves the quality of life for the long-standing residents who've been there. Thank you for your time tonight, and I'm happy to answer any questions that you have.
Thank you. Any questions? Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Did you have a question, Mary?
I did have a question. Can you tell us what's the height of your building and
I don't know the exact height, but it's 11 stories. I'm sorry, 12 stories.
120 feet?
120 feet.
Okay, and what's the age of your building?
It was built in the 1970s.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Is there anybody else that's representing a neighborhood or an association before we open up to everybody else that wants to speak? Seeing none, we're going to take these in order. First up, we're going to hear from Mr. Peter Codrington, followed by Abby Gino, followed by Elizabeth Lamb. Please remember you've got 2 minutes. Mr. Codrington? You'll need to repeat your name for the record, sir.
Yes, my name's Peter Codrington, and I'm a resident in the Continental on the 10th floor. One of the problems we have, I agree entirely with Mr. Farmer, who was before me, but some of us on the south side, on the intercoastal, are definitely going to lose a lot of the views that we have, the reason that we bought the condos when we did, and we're concerned that the building, which is going to be a much larger building than us in the area, is fairly close to where we are. I know there are probably setbacks which are allocated and allowed by the community, but it will certainly as long as they've been there, some of them 30, 40 years. So my concern is that all that has been taken into consideration, and the values of our properties that may or may not be encumbered by the building when it's there, and reducing the value of the property itself.
Thank you, sir.
very much.
Thank you. Okay, Abby Gino, followed by Elizabeth Lamb, and in the queue, Jose Marquez. Ms. Gino.
Good evening.
Is it Gino?
Yes, Gino. Hi, good evening. I'm also an owner at the Continental. Well, needless to say, you know, it will be a huge disaster for me also. I'm facing south. So our views and our quality of life, but that was talked about. I have a few other concerns, okay? First of all, I don't know if it was mentioned, but our building just finished a huge renovation project. We renovated the pool. We worked on the exterior of the building. We invested well over $1 million on that. So that's a big concern. But more than that, you've been at the site, so you saw the traffic on the bridge in the neighborhood. That's a major concern. As it is now, the bridge is always backed up. There's a huge traffic and parking problem. So that needs to be addressed. And also, Ms. Crush kept mentioning about how the two sites communicate to each other. Well, I want to differ. They may communicate with each other, but not with the neighborhood. They're like, I don't know, an elephant in a China store, really. I mean, that's my feeling, at least. And I know, you know, a lot of the buildings, including, by the way, the high-rises. So the Galt is far away. And right where anything that's really close to those proposed hotels are lower, more modest. These are huge, huge, huge projects. And you have expressed concern about that as well previously, about the size of the buildings, about the appearance of it, about the traffic, about all that. So I just...
Continental too. I've been there for 22 years, and I've seen the development go around in Fort Lauderdale. I'd rather the big buildings stay downtown and not at the Galt. We already have plenty of high-rises already there. And when the Marriott was built, do you know the crane fell there and hit the Marriott and our building years ago, like 20 years ago? I'm concerned about the crane safety because you had a crane fall downtown. We don't need that kind of, safety issue in my neighborhood. Plus, just that we went through already the demolition of Bow Campers. Access road is always backed up. The traffic and the sewers are very bad in our neighborhood. There are already dips, and they say they're going to just reline the sewers. That's not going to work. With 320 hotel rooms, you need new sewer lines, for sure. The whole neighborhood's sinking, and that's not been addressed. I mean, I'm constantly putting something on the Fort Lauderdale app, like fix, because, things are collapsing in the neighborhood. And I just feel like, maybe you're more concerned about the developers than the citizens that live in this neighborhood. So that's my feeling on it. I mean, who do you work for, us or the developers? We pay your tax dollars.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Jose Marquez, followed by Frank Martire, followed by Susan Ratliff.
I'm a resident of the Continental.
Thank you.
Yes. And I've been a resident since the year 2000. Okay, and I've seen a lot of the traffic just building up every year. Lately, I've been going to west of I-95 and coming back with the bridges up. Usually, the traffic backs up to 2 blocks west of US 1. And it's a long wait to get to the bridge. Now, next year, we have 2 buildings going up on the south side of the bridge. One on the west side of the Intracoastal, and another one on the east side of the Intracoastal. In addition to that, there is an empty lot, it's a city block, north of the Trades, the large condominium, the boat traffic, and I'm trying to find out from the Bridge Authority for the count significant traffic is a problem because if you go into my condominium, you can exit from the bridge to the south side of the bridge and then go around by the Intracoastal. And again, I experienced significant traffic around the area. I think it's nice to have growth in a city, but my sense is that we're going to be impacted by traffic. In addition, we're going to have the two hotels going up, okay, and that will be another 300 cars a day coming into the area of the hotels and our condominium, Coral Ridge, and the Gold Ocean Mile. So that's all I have.
Thank you, Mr. Marquez. Name?
Frank Martiri. I just want to say I'm amen to all these speakers. They're right on and everything. Although I like the project a lot, we still have a big infrastructure problem. That should be handled first before they get into putting up more buildings and that. Nothing's been addressed. Like other speakers have said in the past, streets are caving in. There's sewer, water, and feces all over the streets. So when you have problems like that, how could you keep building? You just want to keep building and adding more onto it, pile it all up. That's all I have to say. Thank you, and I appreciate your time.
Thank you.
It's a good project. However, you need to address the infrastructure first. Thank you.
Thank you. Susan Ratliff, followed by Pat Seiler, followed by Carmen Sobrete. Good evening.
Hi,
Please
I'm
state your name.
Susan Ratcliffe. I'm the owner of Boutique is being imploded for the Mile. So I moved over to 33rd Street. It's a stunning boutique. We are in favor of the Mile for the following reasons. First of all, this area should be a lucrative area. It really should. It's on the beach between the Intracoastal. Visitors come from all over the world to come to Fort Lauderdale Beach, this area included. And we are surrounded by multi-million-dollar condos. Why is this area depressed? Why is it so neglected? You know, that's something that we need to address. With the Mile coming in, it's going to make many, many improvements and bring in a nice quality group of patrons there'll be a new stream every week into the Merchants. The Merchants have a very hard time. First of all, parking, I didn't realize it was an issue here, but I was going to bring it up because it's our main issue. We are in desperate need of a parking garage. I videotaped one night cars circling around looking for parking spaces. It's a racetrack. I mean, it's very, very dangerous. It needs to be contained. The cars need to be contained. And in the daytime, it's a ghost town. The residents and people there do not like the parking meters. They're confusing. And I know from being in Sea Ranch, my other store 2 miles away, they won't come down there. The new restaurants that have opened, the little coffee shops, I don't have much hope for them. I hope they're not here because it's a revolving door. There's no business there during the daytime. And my boutiques are beautiful. I was asked to be there. I was asked to also lease the space next to the space I'm leasing, and we are expanding. And we are working on setting example for the area. I have plants out there. It's beautiful. If you ever have a chance, my boutiques are stunning. So parking is as a serious issue. It's a main issue. I am in favor of actually taking the parking spaces out and making it like a river walk and pedestrian friendly. I think that would be ideal for that area, for the merchants and the residents. We believe that the Mile will bring these necessary improvements and quality of people to the area. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Pat Seiler, followed by Carmen Sobriet, followed by Pam Stern.
Okay, my name is Pat Seiler. I'm currently the treasurer of the Continental Condo. And just to remind you, that building is directly adjacent to the proposed Hotel Mile West. Our residents are very concerned how the scope of this project is going to affect their quality of life. I take you back to the DRC report that was done in May of 2023, and I just want to quote one line. They say, as proposed, the entire project appears overprogrammed and is at a scale and mass that is significantly larger than the surrounding context and area. We all totally agree with that. We are not opposed to progress, but this building just does not fit in with our neighborhood. It is way too big. And it looks exactly the same as it did a year ago, so it doesn't look like the developer did anything to address that comment from the DRC. The sewer issue has been talked about many, many times. That is a huge, huge concern for us in our building. The pipe runs right in front of our building. The street's sinking. That needs to be addressed. Also, traffic. We asked the city to please do a comprehensive traffic study. I know you look at each of these projects separately, but please look at them together. They are, even though they're separate projects, they are one, as Courtney has mentioned. And also, please take into consideration the other two new projects that are already approved on the south side of Oakland Park Boulevard. Those properties together are probably always total gridlock when the bridge opens, twice an hour. Usually it takes just about the time the traffic clears, the bridge opens again, and then it starts all over again. So we really need a comprehensive traffic study. A few other things, stormwater drainage. We all know about the flooding that takes place under the Oakland Park Boulevard Bridge. The fire department access, Station 54 is right there. And is there enough parking? Is there enough parking to support the hotels, the employees, and the promised parking for the merchants? And I know that's a big, big deal with the merchants, and why they even support this is because they think they're going to get extra parking. And now I'm not so sure that they are. So, thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
Say that I'm one of the people living at the Continental. My apartment is facing the south side. I'm on the 12th floor. I'm lucky I have a corner unit. I may still be able to save some of the views. But looking at the drawings, I'm also a graphic designer by trade. So when I see buildings, I get inspired. They were talking about the fact that they wanted to honor the fact that the building is in front of the waterway, and we should take advantage of that, and how they have set up part of the building back on the west building, that the hotel on the west side. If you look at the drawing, I wish we had it here, but the first few floors go the full length or the full side of the side, and then the top floors seem to step back. They all step back except for the north side of the building where there is a tower higher. Maybe the solution is to move that tower to the Oakland Park Bridge side where there is no neighbors and no views to block, or maybe it's also to just step back the whole and let everybody enjoy the view. That's all I wanted to say, and thank you so much for listening to me.
Thank you. Pam Stern, followed by Kathy Vassallo.
Actually, I just moved my apartment from facing west to facing south just in time for this construction to be blocking my whole view. So my main concern, we haven't seen much on these drawings, is that a lot of these hotel rooms are going to be facing right into my apartment. I come from New York City, and I know what it's like to live when someone's looking right directly into your apartment or sitting on your balcony and people are watching you from hotel rooms, or you're rather watching them in their hotel rooms. There's other things that everyone's already said about the traffic on the bridge and deliveries of food and deliveries of a lot of other items with large trucks. We see them pull up into boat campers. and there's not a lot of room. And the sewer is really a terrible problem because it's always smelling and overflowing. So we all want progress, but I think it's a massive building, and it's really going to destroy our neighborhood and change our lives.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
Kathy Fasalo, followed by Linda Sauget. Good evening.
Hi, I'm Kathy Vassallo. I'm president of North Beach Restaurants and Shops. I'm here to say we are in favor of supporting the hotel. Of course, we have all suffered, over the years. We could use the influx of people in the hotel, of course, and parking has been a major problem, major. I am concerned because today they mentioned a reduction in parking, and I'm not sure if the parking is going to work like some of the other parking garages where only the first floor or the first 2 floors are available and the rest of it's blocked off for hotel. So that's the main concern. As long as there's ample parking, we're in favor of that. The cost of the parking was also questioned. We know that the Tides charges $4 per hour. We didn't know if they had a number in mind of how much that would be. And that's pretty much everyone else said everything else. I just wanted to voice the merchant's opinion that we are looking forward to having an influx of business in our area. Thank you.
Thank you. Linda Sauget. Good evening.
Hi, good evening. I'm Linda Sauget, close. And I live in Coral Ridge Towers, the building right next to Il Lugano on the Intracoastal. And I want to voice my concern with the size of this project. Mainly, my biggest concern is I want you to you've done a site visit, so you know there are 3 entrances and exits out of that very contained community. It's an insular community, and you can get out on the access road to swing onto Oakland Park Boulevard. As everyone has said, try that when the bridge goes up twice an hour. It's backed up into our community, trying to get onto the access road and then onto Oakland Park Boulevard. So I would urge you to do a traffic study to look at that, especially between November and May when all the residents are there. Then there are just 2 other ways in and out of that community, 33rd and 34th. If you want to go north on A1A, you only have 34th Street. That's the only way to get out of that community. We have 300 cars for the hotel. What about the staff? What about shift changes for all of the people who are going to be working at the hotel? This is going to be a tremendous number of extra people, cars, and traffic in this community, which is very insular. There's not a lot of...
To be disrespectful, but I got a 1 name here, so I don't know whether Lemonick is Mr. or Mrs. Lemonick, or we'll let you explain it when you introduce yourself.
I don't think the city laws allow you to ask me that. Now, my name is Dave Lemonick. I live in CRTO, the original building of those 4 tall buildings which have been there since the 60s. I think this is a beautiful building. I think it's a beautiful concept, except for one thing. It's in the wrong neighborhood. Wouldn't it be nice to have all these amenities to help the city of Fort Lauderdale and the Galt Mile Association to achieve its goals, its lofty goals, but not have such an impact on the people who have lived there and consider that to be their oasis, their paradise? When you take away people's sunset, when you take away open space, you've done a great disservice to people. Not just constituents, but family members, fathers, parents, grandparents. That's a big impact. People go there to avoid that feeling. Have you been to Aventura recently? I have. At one time, Aventura must have been something like our neighborhood, with smaller buildings and older families. And when I go to Aventura, because it's unlivable, I wouldn't set foot there, except I have to. The fact of the matter is, Mr. Nesbitt points out that if you want to build something, you have to tear something down. There's no empty space. A year ago, we talked about a park. Now we're talking about 300-room hotel in 2 buildings in a corner that you can't get in and out of, even off-season. It's lunacy. It's insanity. I object.
The last name I have for this item is Maite Vigoa.
Good evening. My name is Maite Vigoa, and I'm here on behalf of my client. My client is an owner of the Continental building, and he's basically willing to purchase the property that is for sale. If the owner is willing to sell, he is interested in buying to keep the property the way it is, upgrade it, but keep it the way it is. That is a solution for this problem. Okay?
Thank you. Is there anyone else that would like to be heard on this item before we close the public portion? Okay, you guys didn't fill out a card. Sir, if you would please approach the microphone. You've got 2 minutes. We'll need your name for the record since we have no other record of it.
My name is Ronald Roberts. I live in Coral Ridge Towers. I just wanted to point out to the board, months ago, Community Center, which was set up for 20 people. The 450 people voiced opinions like this tonight. Our small little insula. The Galt Mile was represented at that meeting also, and the Galt Mile was vehemently opposed to that development. Tonight, they're all in favor, and they're the ones who are the big proponents. I would like to know now who represents, in this meantime, that changed their whole opinion. Much has been made of the Oakland Park Bridge opens every half an hour, and the traffic is, as the man pointed out, onto US 1, and it goes to 34th Street. And this is not going to do anything to improve that. So these are the reasons that we want to keep, right? On our way to this meeting tonight, we passed building after building after building, one more taller than the next. So there is development, there is progress in Fort Lauderdale, right? And we were talking about the park. There was a hearing recently about the park that we were promised, that we were told that the city had allocated the funds. And where are the funds? What happened to the park? So we want to preserve our way of life and still contribute to the community.
Thank you. You don't have to be quick. You can, as long as you keep it under 2 minutes, and let us know who you are. That's all I have to worry about.
Good evening, Lori Henriksen. I'm a resident at the Continental. I'm going to keep it brief and not go through everything that's already been discussed. A couple of things. Worry about the loss of natural light for those of us that are facing the south side. We are going to be blocked. Another thing that I haven't heard is the foot traffic going to the beach. And the walk paths going to the crosswalks going to the beach. There is limited for the crosswalk there on the north side of Oakland Park. So that's another thing to where I think that should be taken into consideration as well. Thank you for your time. It is a beautiful project. I'm not opposed to it. I just think the scale of it is a little bit much, and that's my concerns. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Is there anyone else that would like to be heard on this item before we close the public portion of this meeting? Hearing and seeing none, we're going to close the public portion. Before we open it up to the board for comments and questions, Ms. Crush, you asked to reserve a little time to rebut. Would now be a good time for you?
Thank you, and I'll be brief. Always appreciate the input and passion that all of our residents have. Mr. Farmer correctly pointed out that the city's comprehensive plan is the guide for how our city lives and evolves. It includes things like encouraging mixed-use development, preserving neighborhoods. In fact, this area on the Barrier Island, the zoning regulations were reduced by 30 feet about 10 years ago because of the implementation. We are talking about an area that has a maximum height of 120 feet. You heard the Continental say they believe that is their height. Our neighbors at Coral Ridge Towers, I think, are at 190 feet and have about the same floor area ratio than we do. We think we have taken great pains to make sure we're providing adequate parking. And Kathy, I just want to clarify, the numbers haven't changed. We have been proposing to park at the 0.71 and probably explained that differently from our initial meetings. We do think it's going to be an opportunity for those in the neighborhood to have the access to better parking. So we are a permitted use. We have designed compliant with the code. In fact, out of respect for our neighbors at the Continental, we have stepped our building back on the north from 0 feet to 20 feet. We have also stepped back the tower. It's not the same, it's not coincident with the podium even on the east. Look forward to continuing conversations. One of the items that was in Mr. Farmer's letter, some of the items had to do with construction management. I won't take the board through it now, but I did sit with Michael at Integra, and we have, as any responsible contractor or developer would, construction management protocols prepared. Things like a contact person, pre-inspection of the Continental building for structural integrity, hours of operations posted, screening, dewatering, netting as one goes out. We would like to be very, very good neighbors and have an open line of communication. I think that was mentioned in Mr. Farmer's letter several times, and I just wanted to share that with the board. Thank you.
Sir, I'm sorry, but the public portion's been closed. Mary.
Yes, Courtney, if I could ask you some questions that I heard people talk about.
You keep noise to the minimum. Now the construction trucks, some of them, when they have the backup, that would be the time. That would be the only time you would, have to make some noise. When a truck is backing up, it's OSHA regulations.
Okay, traffic and safety mitigation.
Traffic and safety mitigation with respect to Oakland Park Boulevard.
I think there was concern about construction trucks, a concern about.
So certainly, what we would do would be to prepare
project in the Continental.
We can certainly do that.
Project in the Continental.
We can certainly do that.
Okay, hold on.
That's somewhat typical. Usually we give our neighbors a 24-hour so that if something happens or there's a concern, they have a contact person, whether that's with the general contractor or the owner, but they can have my number.
Okay. Construction damage insurance?
Part of our standard construction mitigation would be to provide insurance, broad form covering damage to the Continental.
And what the impact of the lighting in the mile west would have on the southern units of the Continental?
In terms of light spillage, we are complying with the city's code in terms of the not having light spillage over. We do have balconies on that side. Can certainly incorporate as part of the process.
And all of this you're willing to, and someone read a DRC comment about the size of the project. Can you comment on that? Was that at initial stages? Is it the same?
It was initial. I think it was Michael Ferreira's comment that was copied over and shared with him, candidly, the scale. I think when he was looking at the mile east, was looking solely at single-story retail, which it is single-story retail today. I think that's where the comment came originally, was on the east, and then I think maybe it didn't discuss. Neighbor north, which I think is the Maracay, which is supportive of the mile, but it is smaller. But the other buildings are significant, have improvement. You set zoning regulations, which are the goal. You know, you do them respectfully, but you understand that I don't believe that the zoning code was adopted to intend that we would have a single-story commercial building there. In fact, the opposite. It was to encourage commercial uses interior to the water as well. Not, you know.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Steve, do you have a question?
Yes, for Courtney. And
Yes, sir.
along the same slide that you have up there, as I look at that slide and I look at the Continental, in terms of the Continental, with very itemized there, and you've talked to, have you had?
Was early December. That was just with their building, and then I believe many of you came to the January 3rd community meeting.
Okay, that explains that there. So these are other things. Okay, so I'm addressing.
But
go
happy
ahead.
to open up, certainly to continue. If there are additional things even beyond the construction management, of course.
Yeah, some of these things, it sounds like they're not out. Look closer at the picture. Why did you have it come out like
Well,
that?
for a design,
Screen or something?
in order to have an amenity deck, as many of the buildings our neighbors to the north have, one tends to want to have it with sun exposure, so to the south. So having that.
That's fine, and I just wanted to bring that up. Then the last couple of comments I wanted to make is that I know that the neighbors in the area that are not immediately adjacent, but they're around the neighborhood, the residents around, especially as someone mentioned, daytime customers and those businesses will have a better chance of making it, and we'll get better businesses. I just know that all the neighbors there like to patronize those offices. They're happy to have something so nice, so close, walking distance and whatnot. So it is a commercial, remember, it is a commercial business, and that everyone wants it to thrive. The city's been putting redevelopment money into it to try and help it thrive and get better, and it has, and this should help. So remember, that is a commercial area. It's not a residential area. I know this is the property.
And Mr. Gannon, if I did, I apologize.
Recommend approval on case number UDP V23001, which is the vacation of the alley, based on the following findings of the city staff and based on the testimony. We find it meets the criteria of the ULDR.
A motion, do we have a second?
Second.
Second by Brad. Any further discussion? Leslie, would you call the...
Ms. Furdy?
Yes.
Mr. Gannon?
Yes.
Mr. Gannon?
Yes.
Any further discussion?
I do just want to say, building itself, but this building is no good, or this building's too big, or it doesn't fit into the name. I want to look for the right word. It's a crappy situation, but that is how there is nothing guaranteed. And when people say we want to be compensated for it, that's not how it works. So when we buy things, and I was on this board, I think, when Boat Campers was being built. And I remember people from the Continental came for when Boat Campers was being built. And it was about the lighting, and it was going to be too bright, and there was different things about Boat Campers. Anything that comes next door to anybody, and I'm with you. Mary has been on and off planning and zoning, and I've seen people come and go on planning and zoning, and these things always come up before us. And the thing is that it's a very difficult thing for us to what is going to be built. And I think looking at this, it means city so that people can walk to places, people can ride their bikes to places. When I say that, a lot of people say it doesn't make any sense, but it does. That's how you get less traffic. And I just wanted to add my 2 cents. I feel the frustration. I understand your frustration.
I just want to say too, I applaud you all for coming out. I've done the same thing on many occasions. And often we sit here, we have buildings come in at twice the height or more. You've commented on some of that. This building is the same height or less than most of the buildings around it, other than the shops. the conditions that were put on the screen guaranteed. I think most of those were what you asked for, Mr. Farmer, in your letter, and I don't know how many points Courtney had, so can I ask her how to introduce that if they want to, because it's very long. But I would like to just verify the whole title of the 15 Northeast 32nd Avenue, Fort Lauderdale, will all be provided. Did I miss anything?
I'll second that. Yes.
Mr. McTeague?
Yes.
Okay.
That, so I can't add that thing to the west, but
it's not worth anything anyway. It's up to them.
but you're nodding your head, so you'll consider that. Okay. Yeah. Structure will be addressed, and that the 10.
The request to consider.
This building, that's the one that I kind of got the two, I'm sorry.
Okay, so you can't, all right,
reversed.
so that's fine,
But
I just want to make sure.
They
All right.
have already stressed
ship has
that they
left.
would be
Okay.
willing to talk about this.
That's fine. On to what Ellis said, that it's a place we had a clock, and so people could kind of do time, because it always makes